Thank you for calling the Arizona Office of Vital Records, Department of Health Services.
This is Dana.
Dana, it's me again.
Hi, sorry about that.
Did you find legal counsel for me?
I don't, but what I was going to tell you is I can give you our Attorney General's office phone number for you.
Well, now, he's a chief criminal at the state of Arizona. Did you realize that? Everything he does is a crime. Did you realize that?
Okay.
Do you know he's a liar?
I can't attest to that. I mean, I work here. I can't answer to that. I can give you the phone number. That's the best I can do for you.
Well, I can get it myself, but have you heard of the legal name fraud?
The legal name fraud?
Yes.
No.
Okay, well, in your spare time or right now or whenever you can Google legal name fraud, and if you're so inclined, you can learn about exactly what I'm talking about. What it all comes down to is the birth certificate is a legal character that was created by attorneys at Vital Records, and it's a character that can only be used within a legal story that was also written by attorneys. And so when people request and use a birth certificate and they're not attorneys, what they're doing is they are involving themselves in a legal story without the legal authority to do so. So that's illegal and it's unlawful. So what I'm looking for is legal permission to both request and use that legally created person made by the attorneys. Does that make sense?
See, our records go back to the 1800s. So, that doesn't make sense.
It does, because all those records have been incorporated into the legal entity known as State of Arizona, which is just a sub-legal entity of the corporation known as the United States. Which, again, okay. That's a sub-corporation of the parent corporation called the Crown Corporation. And the Crown Corporation asserts copyright on anything that's legally created, any legal document out there, anything that's registered legally is a copyright protected by the Crown Corporation. And so in order to be part of the legal story, one has to come in and misrepresent themselves as a legal character at a birth certificate. So I don't want to do that and break the law, because that's lying, that's false witnessing, and that's acting as a third-party interloper in a contract I had nothing to do with. See, I didn't have anything to do with the creation of the birth certificate. I was 0 years old at the time. So I need written permission from the creators of that legal document in order to both request and use it to do any other legal thing, such as have a driver's license created, for example.
Yeah, but you've had one all these years.
I have never had a birth certificate, and neither have you. You have only had a copy of someone else's corporate-owned property.
Right, but you've had a driver's license, I'm sure, and
I
you've
have
had
never.
A birth certificate before.
I have never had a driver's license, and neither have you. What's happened is you have used a legally created character, and that has had the driver's license. What you've done is you have animated that legally created character as if it were yourself. You are you. You are not the actual legal character at the birth certificate. That's why when you say you have to establish who I am, I'm telling you, I am me. I simply am. There's no other way to establish me. What's happening is you're looking at me and you say, I can't believe who you are unless you show me a piece of paper. I believe the piece of paper over my own eyes and ears, looking at a living being. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So, yeah. So if I were looking at you, I would say I'm looking at you. You just being there, it's self-evident that you are you. I'm not going to believe a piece of paper over you, the physical person. I'm seeing you, the living being. I believe my own eyes. This piece of paper doesn't establish that you're a living being. You being alive establishes that you are a living being.
Right, but saying who you are is one thing, but there's fraudulent identities and things like that. That's
now when you talk,
trying to establish.
You're right. Every identity out there is fraudulently established because the birth certificate. If people use the birth certificate, it's fraud. It's a fraud. It's high evidence of fraud itself because that document I didn't create it. You didn't create the birth certificate you use. You have absolutely no legal business having anything to do with a legal document that attorneys created at Vital Records. What's happened is this has not all been disclosed to you, and they're not saying, hey, you can't use our property. So the reason they're not telling you, hey, you can't use our birth certificated persons is because they want you to come into their legal story so that you can be under their authorship. They authored the legal story, and they want you to come into their story so they can have full authority over you by your own free will consent. This is how it works. People like me, see, I'm a living being. I don't have any labels. I don't have any name. And therefore, they cannot have authority over me because I simply am. I do not put myself under any legal authority. I am not a legal thing. Now, if I use the birth certificate...
Robin, I'm cutting in on your phone call.
Yes.
Okay. Hello.
Yes.
Hi, this is Robin.
Yes.
I'm a sales supervisor. Is there something that I can help you with?
Sales? Did you say...
This is Dana, Robin.
Okay. Yeah, did you say you're a sales supervisor?
No, this is Robin. It's Dana. This call came back through.
Okay.
Robin, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, sir. This is my supervisor.
Okay, just a heads up. I'm not a sir. I don't subscribe or accept any labels. I just am. So.
Okay, so why are you calling our office, and how can we help you? Do you need help with requesting a birth certificate?
I need written express permission from the owners of the birth certificate to both request and use the information at the birth certificate.
Okay, so what we can do for you is the service that we have to offer is you can request a copy of your birth certificate from the state of Arizona through our office.
So Vital Records only deals with dead, legally created, artificial persons. And see, I'm not one of those. So I'm going to have to say I decline the offer of writing anything on a piece of paper and sending it to a corporation. A living being cannot commune with the dead. Corporations are dead legal things, part of a legally created story. Yeah. You were involved in fraud. You were all involved in fraud, and I'm letting you know that I know. Do you hear me?